This is a school laptop, and this is illegal. So, a bit of background. The beginning of the last academic year, we learned that all pupils would be getting a school laptop. Well, getting is a bit of an overstatement because we still needed to pay to be able to rent it for the year. Normally, you would also keep it for up to 4 years, but since I was a 6th year, I'd need to hand in this fine piece of Lenovo engineering. If you want a review, it's a low-end 2-in-1 from Lenovo. There's nothing to complain about if you don't expect to use this as a workstation or gaming machine. The $800 price tag is dumb, but I don't care, I rented it. Either way, since day one, I've been interested in seeing what I can do with this thing, because even though I paid for it, this laptop is immensely restricted. No admin access, so you can't install literally anything, plus there's BitLocker, so you couldn't install a new OS on the drive even if you should be able to. But when has that ever stopped anyone before? On the evening of the day I got it, I found the BIOS key, it's F2 by the way, and I found the one oversight that made basically all of this possible. The BIOS didn't have a password and was open for changes. Yes, these are professionals and they didn't set a BIOS password. So, I enabled USB boot, changed the boot order, but there was one more obstacle, BitLocker. But this obstacle didn't last long either because of another stupid little oversight. So, all of our PCs were linked to a Microsoft account with 1 terabyte of never used OneDrive. These were owned by the school, not personal accounts, and for some reason, I can't honestly think of any. The BitLocker key was just placed in our account pages, so you could just type that code in, but that would take ages if you were to do that every single boot, so instead, we can just turn off safe boot when booting from an external drive, at least when using Linux. We'll get into Windows in just a bit. And within the evening, I had Pop! OS running from an external USB. But the next day, I decided I wanted to be a part of the people who can say they use Arch, by the way, and downloaded Manjaro instead. Thing is, Pop! OS is more beginner-friendly, but I've had experience with KDE using Kubuntu, so I preferred this option. And apart from some jank caused by the USB drive itself acting up, this actually worked really well. While this isn't a KDE review, I will say I love the customization options. Being able to change the taskbar or split it up like in macOS or to make your own thing, it's just so much fun to mess around with. But running Linux wasn't the only thing I did from an external drive. A friend wanted to play Genshin Impact on the school laptop, and that game doesn't work on Linux, at least not with the anti-cheat liking your account's existence. So I installed a portable Windows install on one of our USB drives, and so Genshin could be ran. I will admit, boot times were slow, so you couldn't really use it for anything else, but while I was messing around with this install, I noticed the ability to turn off the BitLocker encryption. Remember, we have the key, so we can do this. And so I did, and this meant that I could boot Linux without BitLocker getting in the way, even when using SafeBoot. But let's check back in on that integrated Windows install, because that one isn't as limited as you think. Using a USB drive, you can actually sideload programs that you've already installed on a different device. Using this method, I installed an almost fully operational version of Steam that could even download games. With this, I once played Bejeweled during French. I regret nothing. Anyway, working from an external drive leaves you quite limited. I wish you were just to be able to do more with that built-in Windows install. I could just, of course, install a new OS now, since BitLocker is now disabled, but I do need to hand this in, so that would be a mistake. Instead, why not try a more economic approach? Just make yourself an admin instead. No, I'm not kidding. Using a Windows installer, you can open an admin CMD window and use that to make your own local account and administrator. Basically, in the installer, you move a specific program made for actual system administrators to create and edit accounts, and move it into a place that makes it open from the accessibility menu.
It could open, but it doesn't. God damn it. Yeah, this happens sometimes. It just sort of stops working after a while. You can just redo it if you want, but I'm not going to because I already have.
From here, you can create a new account that is an admin and log in. From there, it's as simple as just making your own account an admin from the Windows settings. And so you have full access to this Windows install. It's a bit of work, but it is 100% worth it. But before our conclusion, I want to add a little story about the side quest of this adventure, the Wi-Fi password saga. So, again, a change that only started from last year. The Wi-Fi was not accessible from any device other than the laptops. At first I thought this was MAC address related, but it ended up being much simpler than that. Using the admin privileges, I ran a command that showed the password and SSID of the current network. Turns out, it's just the hidden network that was set up beforehand. So with this, you can actually add the Wi-Fi as a hidden network on basically any device and use it on those devices. It was probably the biggest revelation that came from this project, but to this day, very few people know. So start taking notes, because the password for this unknown school's Wi-Fi address for the SSID known as Not Your Wi-Fi is Wi-Fi at Drahtlos with zeros instead of O's. Enjoy. I don't know what you're going to do with this information, but please have fun. So why did I make this video? Well, mostly just for fun. It shows that even the IT people of this school still managed to fuck up their setup. I do hope that this stuff gets fixed, but it's so much fun to quote-unquote crack the code. I wouldn't mind it if they didn't. The only worry is people using this power for evil. For example, if you were to set a password for the BIOS, it would be very difficult for the administrators to access the BIOS. Not completely impossible, there are ways to circumvent a BIOS password. Not easy ones, mind you, but, you know, it would be very inconvenient. And also, the Wi-Fi password being that easy to find should not be the case. Most consumer routers even have the option to limit the network to specific MAC addresses. Lads, come on, do better. So yeah, don't try and limit what I can do with my device, because I will circumvent it, and yes, that is a threat. You should feel scared.